Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's session on the parenting series. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be welcoming you here. I thank you for being here. And as I said, it is an honor and pleasure for me to meet you because this happens to be one of the topics that I am passionate about regarding children. And this evening we are talking about how to build a solid foundation for your child with these 6 powers. We are looking at it from the neurosemantics perspective. And some of you are here for the first time, and there are others who have joined these sessions before. Whether you are a first-timer or a regular, I bid you welcome, and I encourage you to interact in the discussions later. Notice I'm using the word discussion. It is not just a talk presentation coming from me, because many of you have experience in many different aspects of the topic on parenting as a child, as a parent, as an auntie or uncle. So it goes into that, and your experiences are equally important. And that's why I would like to invite you later on to just interact in the discussions. Now, before I continue on, just to mention that these sessions that we have, this one is on the parenting series. It is organized by the Institute of Neurosemantics Malaysia, and the Institute of Neurosemantics Malaysia represents the International Society of Neurosemantics and the MetaCoach Foundation here in Malaysia. And these sessions that I am leading, we are covering topics on neurosemantics, relationship, meta-coaching system, and this one on parenting. And for those of you who are meeting me for the first time, I'm Mazuki. I'm a neurosemantics trainer and meta-coach. I represent Malaysia in the international leadership team of the International Society of Neurosemantics. I help people like you to systematically develop skills in leading, communicating, and coaching to bring out the best in yourself and others. By actualizing that, you can experience an exceptional quality of life filled with happiness, creativity, and fulfillment. In the 60 to 90 minutes together, we'll be discussing about the 6 powers that are crucial for you to build a solid foundation for yourself and also for your child. As usual, I will pause for discussion after each main point to invite questions, comments, or contribution from any one of you. And if you are new here, feel free to explore further what we are discussing. Another thing I'd like to remind you is that my style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, reduce being serious, and be more real. I'd like again to warmly welcome all of you who are here this evening. Guat-Ching, thank you for being here. Danielle, Cղɪʟᴅ, Christine, and Aida. So welcome to this session. And I hope that this session, this evening, will bring you new ideas or fresh ideas with respect to this topic on parenting. Yep. Now, as a way of introduction to this topic that we have, I'd like to bring to you this quote by this gentleman, Glenn Doman. He quoted that every child born has, at the instant of birth, a higher potential intelligence than Leonardo da Vinci ever used. Now, Leonardo da Vinci is a well-known genius, both in the area of arts and area of sciences and engineering. And yet, Glenn Doman is able to say this with great conviction, that at the instant of birth, every child born has a higher potential intelligence than Leonardo da Vinci ever used. Now, potential intelligence needs to be nurtured and developed into talent and skills. It is a potential, then it doesn't go anywhere. It is just there. It needs to be nurtured and developed to become a skill, to become a talent and skill. So now they can use that. It is the role of parents to explore, find out what those potentials are, and then nurture the child's potential. Without nurturing and development, the potentials may be lost, and some of them may be lost forever. Talents and skills need to be built upon a solid foundation. A house built on soft ground will sink and collapse. For us here in Malaysia, the recent rain, maybe you watched the video that went viral. There's this apartment block whereby the retaining wall just collapsed, bringing down, I think, something like 4 or 5 cars down that.
5 cars.
5 cars, yeah, Cղiʟᴅ. So the foundation to the retaining wall had been eroded by continuous rain, and the whole wall collapsed, bringing down 5 cars down the ravine. So you need to have a strong foundation. Without that strong foundation, the house or whatever structure on it will collapse. With a strong foundation, the house will remain standing for decades. And for us here in Malaysia, this is one of our pride and joy. We look at a beautiful structure. It goes up. How many stories? 80 something stories, right? I can't remember.
You mean the Merdeka, the latest one?
No, I'm referring to the Petronas Twin Tower. Oops, I forgot to share my screen.
The one also, yeah. At least 88.
88, yeah, I think about that.
I think about level, yeah.
Yeah, about 88 level. So in order for us to be able to build this tall structure, we need to have a strong foundation. And those of you who know me know that my background was in engineering, and part of what I did was as a geotechnical engineer. That was my previous life. My previous life. So I was also involved in the soil investigation work in the construction of the Petronas Twin Tower. And my outfit, we drilled many boreholes in order to understand what's the soil underneath it. And we had to go down to 200 meters underground to know what is the type of soil. And for those of you who are familiar, the actual orientation of Petronas Twin Tower was amended, was changed after we conducted the soil investigation. Because when we discovered the type of soil underneath, we realized that if we were to build according to the original orientation, it would just go sideways because it was weaker on one side. Technical speak, if you don't mind me using technical speak, the soil underneath was Canny Hill was sloping, and on top of that you have alluvium. So we had to shift that building. So the engineers had to do that. So similarly, when you build a solid foundation for your child, the child can build more and more skills for decades to come. So what is that foundation? So these are what will be discussing this evening. So the questions that we'll be discussing about, hope that we'll be able to answer this question this evening, are what are the powers that you need to equip your child with so that the child will develop a strong foundation? How do you develop those powers? So the how part, this is where I'm going to bring in the facilitative process to allow you to share your experiences in raising your children as well. And what adjustments do you need to make as the child goes through the different stages in his or her life? Those of you who are familiar with the sessions that I bring, we've been talking about the different stages according to the psychosocial development, the cognitive development, the adult development of men. So we bring those into our discussion today. Now, first question is I want to put over here is that why do we need these 6 powers? This evening, I'll be bringing to you the 6 powers. So why do we need these powers? And the answer is to build a healthy self-concept. This is important because without the healthy self-concept, that child grow to become adult, they do not know how to manage themselves, and because of that, they are not able to manage things around them and relationships around them. So the key thing is to have a healthy self-concept. When the self-concept is unhealthy, then that child who becomes an adult later will have issues when they are connecting and relating with other people, will have issues in achieving their goals and putting their goals out there. So the reason why I'm bringing the 6 powers is so that we can have a healthy self-concept. So when we talk about self-concept, those of you who attended my Inside Out Wealth program, so we talk about this self-concept as follows. There are 8 self-concepts that we need to bring to bear on ourselves, even as an adult. We need to have all of these 8 self-concepts. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. One is self-esteem. The second one is self-acceptance. The third is self-confidence. The fourth one is self-efficacy. Next is self-optimism. Next is self-capitalization. Next is self-integrity. And the 8th is self-investment. So these are 8 concepts that when we have them healthily, then we are able to perform our role as human beings, to function fully and completely as human beings. Now, what I do notice in adults, the most common issue that most adults have is the issue of confusion between self-esteem and self-confidence. When people confuse those two, then the other self-concepts also suffer. So the reason why we are talking about the six powers is when a child, and when we as well are using these powers fully and completely, we are able to access these powers and use these powers, then we are contributing to a healthy self-concept for ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to pause over here so that I can invite any comments from any one of you before I go into the 6 powers. So anyone has got any comments or questions that you would like to ask? Go ahead. Yes, Cղɪʟᴅ.
I think that self-concept not only for parenting, we see, because from what I understand, from what you mentioned just now, actually is also for, it's not only for child, it's even for adult also. Like for example, any induction program or when a new staff on board kind of thing, I think all these also applicable kind of thing, not only just for child kind of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the reason why we as adults are also struggling in our life is because we don't have this self-concept healthily. So some of our self-concepts are unhealthy, and that's why we are also struggling. So bringing it into the context of a child So that's why as parents, we need to help the child develop these concepts healthily. So thank you, Cղɪʟᴅ. You are noticing it in the context of students who are in the university. I'm noticing it in the context of the professions. I'm looking at people in organizations, people in companies. Yesterday, I was talking to a group of people in the quality management system. So yes, in industries, in manufacturing area. So all of these issues come up because of the unhealthy self-concept. So when you as parent are able to help the child develop these concepts healthily, solidly, what happens is that because they have this solid foundation, things that come into the future that is not here now. And to a certain extent, I am brave enough to say, I guarantee that will happen. That what we have now, they are going to experience something much more different. When they have that healthy self-concept, they're able to adjust to it. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Cղɪʟᴅ, for noticing that. So are you ready to go on with the 6 powers, right? So what I'm going to do is I will bring to your attention 2 powers at a time, and then we'll have a discussion, yeah, so that we can break it down into, say, 3 chunks. So the first power is the power of recognizing and owning your personal powers. This is the first power. For those of you who are familiar with the neurosemantics models, this is what we call the power zone. So this is the first one, to recognize and own your personal powers. This power enables you to become crystal clear about the fundamental components of your personal powers so that you can fully claim them. So what are your basic powers? The power of thinking, the power to feel, the power to say your words, and the power to do. So these are your 4 basic powers. And just this morning, I was giving an analogy that with these 4 powers, when you are competent in using them, then your life becomes wonderful, becomes more powerful. If you are not competent in using them, then your life will be hard and problematic. Yeah? And I give the analogy, it was last night when I was talking about competency, I give the analogy of driving a car. To drive a car, there are only 4 controls that you need to be competent and or skilled to use. What are the controls? The steering wheel, the accelerator pedal, the brake, and the gearing system. Whether it is a manual or automatic transmission, you need to have competency in using the gearing system. So every car has those 4 controls, just as every human being have all these 4 powers. Now, the thing about driving a car is that some people, because they are competent in using these 4 controls, they can make the car do almost anything. I mean, have you seen them do drift and then make donut spin and all that? And I just go, ah. However, when I see the donut spin, I see, wow, they are burning their tires. Okay, so that's for a competent person. However, when a person is not competent in using these 4 controls in the car, what happened? Even to park in their parking lot, going back to their house, they have trouble doing that. Okay, so similarly, we need to be competent. However, before you can be competent, you need to own them. So this is the first one, to own, to recognize that you have these powers and own them. These are your 4 fundamental powers, and with them, they establish all of your higher and more powers. We begin with awareness to recognize these core powers, then we will bring a sense of ownership to them. Own them. They are yours. They are not somebody else. Doing this ownership of the powers, doing this metastates these powers. It puts them within the frame of awareness and ownership and provides you the basis for personal empowerment, responsibility, proactivity, and initiative. Failure to do this lies at the heart of every person who experiences life as a victim, as helpless, who feel needy and disempowered, who enters into dependent relationships with others, wanting them to take care of them, and who spend the energy complaining, blaming, and accusing when things go wrong. So that's the end of the scale. When a person doesn't recognize and own their personal powers, their life is the life of a victim. Whereas when you recognize and own your powers, your life is that of the source, the creator, for whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. So this is the first power, to recognize and own your personal powers. Now, how can people lose ownership of their personal powers? Because it appears quite simple, right? Think, feel, say, do. It's just that conditioning may cause some people and our children to lose the sense of ownership, because maybe they have been prohibited from doing that. Yeah, sometimes children are scolded. They do something they do something wrong. The parents say, "Why did you do that?" So I was thinking that I might want to do it like this, like this. Stop thinking, just do as you're told. So being prohibited from thinking, being prohibited from feeling. Things like, your goldfish died and you are so sad. You shouldn't be feeling sad. It is something trivial. So being prohibited from feeling will cause the child to feel that they don't own that power of feeling. Same thing with the power of saying. Little children should be seen, not heard. So prohibited from saying and prohibited from doing things. So this caused that loss of sense of ownership. So the first power that we want to give to our children is to get them to recognize and own their personal power. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is the power of distinguishing responsibility to and for. To be able to have that distinction. So this is the power of distinguishing responsibility to and for, not from. Yeah? Responsibility to and for. Now, this is the power of recognizing the power to respond to those with whom we have a relationship from our responses. Making this distinction enables us to set and hold boundaries between ourselves and others, drawing the line between what you are responsible for, what we are responsible for are our 4 powers. So that's when we are interacting with another person, that's what we are responsible for. So inside that circle, our responsible for our 4 central powers. And as we are interacting with another person, we are responsible to that person. We are responsible to that person for what we say and do. However, we need to draw that line. The responsibility to for line. That line is the responsibility line that we do not want to cross, because the responsibility for thinking, feeling of the other person is not our responsibility. That is their responsibility. So this is what this next power is about: setting responsibility to or for, drawing the line between what you are responsible for, so that's your accountabilities, and who you are responsible to, enables us to be sane and to not take on the responsibilities of others. So if we were to try to control other people's thinking, feeling, saying, or doing, it will drive us insane. So don't do that. So sometimes I humorously call that line, that responsibility line, I call it the sanity line. You try to cross the line, you go insane. So you are responsible for yourself, what you say and do, the structures and frames that you set up. You are responsible for how you interact, treat the people around you, the spirit and atmosphere that you set. So you are responsible for that. However, you are not responsible for how they think, feel, talk, or act. They are responsible for that. Yet, you are responsible to them as people, to them as participants in your organization, to them as learners, as colleagues. You are responsible to them. So what you say and do matter. You want to take responsibility for what you say and do, because part of your responsibility to others is what you say and do are things that are helping, things that are contributing to their well-being. So separating out and stepping into a state of clarity about this responsibility to for distinction empowers you in creating in a healthy way, not creating sick and dependent relationships or getting off on the power or authority of being out in front as a leader. And one of the, I would say, mistakes or issues that parents make is trying to take responsibility for what their children say and do. So that is why when the child is still very small, yes, you take full responsibility. At the same time, until they are 18, you are still accountable for their behaviors. So you need to keep that fine balance. In as much as you are accountable for what they do, that implies responsibility. Know that they are learning to take on their powers. And so that needs to be some negotiation happening, so that they will learn to take on their powers and take on the responsibilities for themselves. And the issue sometimes is that parents take on the responsibility of what the child say and do, to the extent that not giving any room for the child to learn to take ownership of their powers and take full responsibility for their powers. Yeah, and if I may give an example, I think many years ago, something like about less than 5 years ago, there was a case in the States whereby a teenager drove the car. He didn't have any license, drove the family car and caused an accident that killed, if I'm not mistaken, 1 or 2 other people. And when when he was presented to court, the lawyer argued that this teenager, this child, shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior because he's suffering from affluence. Because he came from a very affluent family, and because of that, he did not learn about responsibility. So you should not blame the child. And you know what happened? The lawyer won the case for the child. So basically teaching the child that you are not responsible for your behavior. So let's take a pause there so that if anyone wants to ask questions or comments, please go ahead.
Azuki, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So a bit of out of topic. So this is at a workplace, but the staff is adult behave like a kids, so they don't own these 4 powers. Giving them responsibility, they want to take out, they want to have ownership, they want to have a responsibility. So how could we guide or coach them to be stop blaming, stop complaining, be responsible to all the tasks that they should take?
Yeah. So basically what happened is that that particular staff needs reparenting. So that's why I'm having this conversation here. So that when you parent your child, the child, you see, the thing about learning these powers, these skills, it requires practice. So that's why little children, they have that development process, the psychosocial development, cognitive development process. So when they learn to take in these powers from young, they are practicing it. So it gives them time to be able to learn it fully and completely. However, in the context of what you are saying there, Guaching, is that that person or people, as they go through the growth process, these concepts of responsibilities are not being imparted to them. The reason why it's not being imparted, and I would say nowadays is very common, because one of the reasons is, I mentioned to you, parents, knowing that they are also accountable for what their children do, they take the powers of the child and put it on themselves. So they say to the child, you do as I tell you what to do, not do as you think that you want to do. By taking the power from the child doesn't learn how to develop that power.
And yet the parents say it's all for your own good.
So actually it is not for the child's good.
Correct.
It is for the parents.
It's meant to shock sendiri, feel good.
Short-term convenience. Because to get a child who is still developing in terms of the cognitive process, in terms of social development, they are still developing that. To teach them these things requires time, requires consistency of effort. So some parents take the easy way out instead of coaching and developing the child. Say, you just do what I tell you to do. And I have come through situations whereby I was about to say a child, but already 18-year-old,
Yeah,
not quite a child. The parent come to me and say, can you help my daughter? She's finished her SPM already, but she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what course to pick. And then when the child comes to me and say, what is it that you want to do? I don't know. And when they say I don't know, I know what's happening. All through her 18 years of life, the parents are the one who are making choices. Right, Cղiʟᴜ?
Actually, if you after SPM, right, I ask a lot of them, they want to study law.
They want to
study law. Because why? We ask you, what you want to do after SPF? Study law. What to study? Study law. Study law, then study law, the LOH, not LAW. But what to study, they don't know. And the worst thing is that even they come to college, right? They not even have a chance to fill out the application form for themselves, by themselves. The father, the mother say, you're so slow, let me fill out with you. Rushing, no time, don't waste time. Even they don't have a chance to fill out the application form. I mean, that is the thing. And also about 2 weeks ago, I mean last week basically, when after I finish work, right, I'm going home. So just drive through at the SS15 there. When I want to pass by McDonald's, right? So I saw an Alphard or Wildfire kind of car in front of me at the roadside. So an uncle came down from the driver's seat, then opened the door at the back, or macam bodyguard nose. And then put up the hand like that, and then ask the girl to cross the road. That is a girl, I think it should be attending college or after Form 5 kind of things already. And yet need a father or whoever to so-called block the car for her to cross the road, you see. That is the thing now. I mean, happen nowadays. Like a lot everyday kind of things. Happen a lot, but that's why I say, we cannot blame the younger generation. Strawberries and marshmallow. We make them actually.
So these are
we make them strawberry.
These are examples of lack of parenting, and that's why the child grows up to be like that. As Cղɪʟᴅ, when you were giving the example, an incident came to mind when my daughter was about 14 years old in Form 2. So she was already a prefect, and they had the leadership training program for the prefects. So I sent my daughter to school by car because we stayed quite a fair distance. But I noticed one girl who's supposed to go for the leadership training program as well. So she was walking to school, but her bag was being carried by her maid. And I was thinking, okay, she's going to learn about leadership, and yet her bag is being carried by the maid. So this is how parents are depriving children from learning responsibility. So Guaching, to answer your question, then we need to take many steps back with that person, because that person may have not been given the opportunity to take on responsibility for him or herself. So you need to take many steps back. Then what needs to be to come in, what needs to come in is additional learning, training, and coaching. So it is not something that you can change overnight, because that behavior is the culmination of the result of a culmination of many behaviors that is depriving the person from learning this. So good luck to you, Guaching.
And also, I think that also there are lack of awareness about why they should take on ownership or be responsible for all the tasks.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take another 2 points for discussion. 2 more powers. This next power is the power of acceptance. Now, if there is any resource that doesn't seem to be powerful, it is acceptance, because it looks like it's not a power, but don't let that deceive you. Acceptance is a state of tremendous power and even magic. The opposite of acceptance is rejection. It is fighting and arguing with the facts of what is, and refusing to take life on its own terms instead of your wishes, dreams, and illusions. In grief recovery, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross mapped out that many people go through, when things go wrong, people go through shock, denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and then acceptance. So in neurosemantics, we say, why not just start with acceptance and avoid all the fight and the emotional roller coaster? So acceptance provides the magic of serenity, and from that to focus. So that's why I use the analogy of the rain over here. Some people, they fight against it. Why is it raining? I'm going to be late for work. However, accept that rain happens. So that's an analogy that I'm bringing over here. Now, this is the state of acknowledging what is, so that you can come to terms with it and figure out how to deal with it. In acceptance, you do not condone or resign. Those are different states. Acceptance accepts that something is, it exists, and it has to be dealt with. This powerful state is a quiet and gentle one. Generally experience it as in a matter-of-fact tone. So when you accept, for example, accepting rain, instead of fighting that it is raining, when you accept that it is raining, then you can have other countermeasures. Maybe take out an umbrella, or maybe wear your raincoat. For example, when I go out for my workout in the morning, I would have this expectation that on a good day, I go for my workout, it's not raining. On a good day, I go out on my workout, it might be raining. So all that I need to do is that, what's wrong if it rains? Oh, my handphone might get wet. So I just bring a plastic bag, put my handphone in the bag, and put it inside my pouch. If it rains, my handphone will not get wet. I get wet, but that's okay. I get wet every time I have my shower. So no issues there. So this is what we are referring to, acceptance, not rejecting, not having an anxiety about it, but it is just about taking things as it is. Acceptance, welcome. What exists without resigning to it or condoning it. Acceptance begins with reality. That is what is. So that you can then develop a way to cope with whatever it is, especially when the reality is not up to your expectation. So to accept that reality first. So sometimes I use the term being friends with reality. Instead of fighting with reality, just to be friendly to it and accept this happens. So that is why in NLP, we focus on one of the things that Fritz Perls is quoted to have said, lose your mind and come to your senses. If you don't achieve what you want, acceptance doesn't mean that you stop putting in the effort to get what you want. Acceptance is to just take, okay, this is what I have achieved. No, this is not what I want, but this is what I have attained. So I'll just accept that I have achieved this. I still want what I want, and I make countermeasures. I put up new strategies in order to get what I want. Notice that little children need to learn acceptance. So that's why sometimes you notice them go into tantrum. They go into tantrum because the reality is not what they anticipate. So when children go into tantrums, or they go or they fight with whatever is out there, that is an opportunity for us to bring this concept of acceptance into their lives. Okay. Now, the next power is the power of awe. Awesomeness. If acceptance puts us on good terms with reality, enabling us to accept what is so that we can then begin to deal with it. Then awe empowers us to treat what is really special and highly valuable as indeed special and sacred. Awe is the emotion of wonder, marvel, amazement at the greatness, bigness, and ultimate value of something. We all feel it from time to time. Many are embarrassed by it. Others feel afraid of it. But it is a power. And if you know how to use it and what to do with it, you will be able to stand in awe of the mystery and wonder of being human, of creating meaning and of your ultimate value as a human being. Then you can use it to establish once and for all that your worth is a given, that you don't have to prove anything, and that you are unconditionally worthwhile. And so esteem yourself with unconditional positive regard. This gets your ego out of the way, frees you to focus on what you can learn, experience, and give. So the power of awe is the state of seeing and recognizing value that is so wonderful, so fantastic, so incredible that it takes your breath away. It leaves you speechless. It moves you to a standing in awe of something fabulous and wonderful. And to that extent, so that's why whenever I go into nature, whether I go for a walk in the nearby forest or I go up a hill or mountain, I deliberately allow myself to be in awe of the greatness of what's outside of me. Because that power of awe, when I bring it to my being, my creation, to be in awe of yourself, that will lead you to unconditional self-esteem. So that's where you use that power of awe in a healthy way, in setting up the foundation for yourself. So let's pause there, and I would like to open up for questions or comments. Izani, welcome. Great to see that you are here and joining us. So anyone has got...
Sorry, a little bit late because I was engaged with another.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for being here. Yes. So any comments with respect to this power of awe?
I was kicked out just now, so I will watch the video again tomorrow to pick up what I missed.
You lost connection, but glad that
that's
you
why
are
I
back.
that's why I have up my video and my camera.
Okay, so are you good with that? So two more powers that I brought to you just now. The power of awe and the power of acceptance. And what we will be doing with all of these powers is to apply it on self. Because when we apply it on self, it helps us to develop the 8 self concepts that we talked earlier. So let's move to the final 2 powers. So we've covered 4 powers. The next power is the power of permission and embracing. To give ourselves permission and embrace ourselves and what's around us. While your meanings are the engine of power, you feel those meanings as the emotions that you create, which registers the feel of meaning. So if we ask, what do meanings feel like? They feel like emotions. The emotions that result from our meanings registers somatically in our body. Emotions are therefore the somatic registering of the difference between what we have mapped as our meanings about things and our experience of the corresponding things. This makes our emotions important information, and always right. Right to the maps and experiences that we are weighing in relation to each other. So the power of permission and embracing, if they are right, if our emotions are right in the comparative context, then permitting them to be and embracing them as one information source empowers us to use them as signals and information. Instead of the opposite of permission is prohibition. So when people register emotion, the opposite of permission is they resist or they prohibit. And when you prohibit emotions, you are saying to yourself that information is not important. And that's why many people lose information in their lives. So you need to give yourself the permission to feel those emotion, because emotions are a source of information. Emotions provide energy, the energy to act, to get ourselves in motion. Yet when we bring negative emotional energies against ourselves, they put us at odds with ourselves. How do we bring negative energies against ourselves? We experience a certain emotion and we prohibit that emotion. So now we are fighting our emotion with another emotion. We attack ourselves. It turns our psychological energies against ourselves in an unuseful way. So this generates dragons and dragon states inside of us. While there are exceptions, they are exceptions to the rule. Use this power for handling emotions that trouble you, positive or negative. The power of permission and embracing whatever emotion that you experience, whether you are comfortable with that emotion or you are uncomfortable with that emotion, to give yourself the permission to feel that emotion and embrace that. That's how I am feeling now. When you permit and embrace, only then you will have access to the information that that emotion brings to you. So this gives us an art of handling emotions effectively and intelligently. And why many people struggle with the emotions is because they don't have this power of permission and embracing. So they struggle with emotions, and because of that, they are setting up unresourceful emotions fighting inside of them. Okay, so that's power number 5. And moving on to the power number 6, which is the power of appreciation. The power of appreciation. Seeing, recognizing, and valuing the importance of something is the heart and soul of appreciation. In appreciating, we see and attribute value. We attribute rich meanings. We identify significance. And we access a state of gratitude. It is in and from this state that we are able to find things that count, and so sacralize. With appreciation, we can value our gifts and strengths, the values that others offer, and the possibilities yet to be discovered. Appreciation as a human power is a power that makes us rich. Appreciation is the power to recognize and acknowledge value. The issue with some people is that they disappreciate, they become numb to the value that is out there. And because of that, their lives become flat. So appreciation, as I mentioned just now, is the power to recognize and acknowledge whatever value is in something. And this is central in wealth creation. We want to create wealth in our life, the value that enriches the lives of ourselves and other people's life. And in creating rich relationships with others, you see the person's values. So notice how this power of appreciation, when we bring it to our children and ourselves, they begin to notice whatever value that is out there, and to be counting of the richness of life that they are experiencing. To be counting, I'm referring to be noticing, to be accepting, this is what I am experiencing in life. And when they have this power of appreciation, then they begin to appreciate themselves, one as a person, and also appreciate the skills and competencies that they have. So in this way, you are building a solid sense of self, and from there it becomes a very powerful and strong foundation for them in the years to come. Okay, so that's where we are at in our discussion for this evening. So with the last two powers, I would like to invite any questions or comments. The last two powers that we talk about are the powers of permission and embracing, and then the power of appreciation. So any questions or comments? Just go ahead.
Yes, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead, Aida.
Thank you. It's about fifth power. You said that this power is related to emotions. So people who have no permission to themselves to accept these emotions, like they have problems with them. But I didn't understand exactly which to express. So these people are closed, or they are too emotional. Like, in which sphere do they have problems with emotions?
Okay, thank you. If I understand your question, please correct me if I'm wrong. Your question is about when people experience their emotion, we tend to call them over emotional because their behaviors are driven by that emotion. And you're asking, so how do we do that? Is that what you're asking, Aida?
Yes, I'm kind of like, I'm asking, you just said that, can we go to the fifth power, please?
Yeah.
I mean, with the screen.
Power number 6 is power of appreciation.
Number 5.
Power number 5 is the power of permission and embracing.
Yes. So you said that if a person has no power of permission and embracing, he might experience problems with emotions. So in which way?
Okay. Thank you. So
Thank you.
an emotion is an energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. So when a person, and in neurosemantics, we say that emotion is the difference between our expectation and our experience of the world. So when we expect things to go right, and when we experience that it doesn't go that way, we have an emotional state. So when our experience is better than our expectation, then we experience what we call a positive emotion. We like that. When our experience is worse than our expectation, we experience an emotion that we dislike. Yeah. So basically, emotions are just an information feedback mechanism to tell us the difference between our expectation and reality. So that's what emotions are. Now, when we experience that emotion, it is a form of energy. And as we know in physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It was there because of the meanings that we put. So that's why we experience that. Now, when we fight against that emotion, so now that emotion has nowhere to go. It is fighting. So we are putting new thoughts, new ideas to the issue, and we are causing that emotion to be spiraling. So that's when a person has problems with their emotions, because they are not able to, they do not permit themselves or embrace that emotion. So that emotion keeps, the word is keep spiraling inside of them, and they are filled with that energy, and that energy can harm them. Now, when you give yourself permission to feel that, because emotion is just telling you the difference between your expectation and reality. So give yourself permission to feel that. What happens is that when you feel that, now that emotion just travels out of your body and it just changes form, maybe into heat, into other forms of energy in your body, and it flows out. So that's why when you give yourself permission of a certain emotion, you permit yourself to feel that, and you embrace in the sense that I feel sad. And what is this sadness about? So those of you who were with me around November, December, I shared this example with you that my daughter, my youngest daughter, married in early November, and my wife and I, both of us, you know, as parents, marriage is supposed to be a happy moment, and yet after that we feel some sadness. And my wife mentioned that to me, and we just sat down together and we just gave ourselves, so I gave myself the permission to feel sad and begin to go through the process. The moment I embrace, okay, I'm feeling sad, and allowing myself to feel sad. And since I know the process, I say, I'm going to give myself permission to feel sad for however long that it takes. Now, the key thing here is this, just to feel it and not take any action, not do anything, not make any decision, not do anything when you are feeling that emotion. So as I felt that sadness, only then I was able to say, okay, so what is this sadness telling me, looking for that information. And I found out that, okay, this sadness is about the fact that since my daughter has gotten married, she's not going to live in our house anymore. So there is that loss. Yeah? I have not lost my daughter, but I have lost that part of her life where she lived with us. So a loss of value causes you to feel sad. So I'm honoring, okay, so that's why I'm feeling sad. So when I give myself permission to feel sad, embrace that sadness, and from that sadness, I learn what it is about. So taking in the power of appreciation to appreciate that the value of having her presence in our house. So bringing in both the power of permission and embracing, also the power of acceptance into it. And that energy of sadness just went away after a week, because that sadness is not about her getting married. That sadness is about her not about us losing that part of her life where she lived with us. The part where she gets married, the part where she finds a partner, that gives us joy, because we know that she's moving into another chapter. So to be able to recognize that we have different emotions inside of us, and not to lump everything in together. So when we talk about the power of permission and embracing, how it helps you whenever you feel that emotion, when you give yourself permission and embrace an emotion, that's when the energy just flows harmoniously in your body and it flows out. When people do not give themselves permission to feel, they feel sad and they are angry at themselves for feeling sad. So that is a meta state. So that anger, the energy of anger is turned against the energy of sadness, and that becomes a struggle inside of them. So that's when we say people are over emotional. You become over emotional when you do not accept the initial emotion in the first place. Aida, did I manage to answer your question, or are there anything?
Totally. Thank you so much. It was the best answer. Really. Really, thank you so much.
Thank you, Aida, for asking that. Yes. Anyone else has got any questions or comments? No? So that means that we've come to the end of our session for this evening. So I've covered the 6 powers that we need to bring to ourselves. We need to learn how to use those powers in a constructive way, in a healthy way. And 2, as parents, we need to look into how we are bringing up our children so that we can equip these powers. And from these 6 powers, what happens is that they are able to develop a very strong and healthy self-concept. From a healthy self-concept, they can build the future on that. They can go as high as they want because that self-concept serves as a foundation. Just like a foundation for a building. When the foundation is strong, you can build tall structures on it. So for a human being, the foundation is the self-concept. And the reason why I'm bringing this topic this evening is that as I'm working with adults, coaching them, I'm noticing that a lot of the issues that people are facing in their lives come from the perspective of them not having a strong self-concept. So the foundation is not strong. So as they go along in their professional lives, becoming engineers, doctors, whatever professions and they are in, because their self-concept are weak, so the foundation is weak, and because of that they find difficulty in relating with themselves and also in relating with others. So I hope that as parents, you'll be able to bring these 6 powers, and the way that you do it, it has to be appropriate to the development stages of your children, from birth to 2 years old, from 2 to about 6, and from 6 to 12, and from 12 to 18. So there are different stages. So how we bring these powers according to the it has to be appropriate to what stage that they are in. So that is also why it is valuable to understand the stages of a child's development. So before we end, I would just like to give an opportunity for each and every one of you, if you don't mind, to share with us what is your takeaway from this evening's discussion. I would like to start with the person at the bottom of my screen, Izani. Go ahead. So what is your, even though you came in later, however, is there any takeaway that you can share with us from this evening? Go ahead.
I would, from my previous reading, one of the book, there is something got to do with like awaken the giants. awaken the giants.
Okay.
So meaning that you human, you have some like a giant in you, very powerful. Doesn't matter whether you learn in your life, you learn about law, you learn about engineering, law, accountancy, but there is another power that you have to come out and making you become very powerful as well. So related to this power, maybe we can synchronize with this kind of power. I could say. Is that okay or not?
Yes, I would say that there is a lot of parallel over there, because when we talk about awakening, the phrase "awaken the power within" comes from Anthony Robbins. So from what I understand, he's referring to the potentials that are inside of us. Yeah. So the potential needs to be trained into skill. So when we bring those potential into skills, then we become that giant that is within ourselves. So that's what I understand from that. Yeah. So I can see that parallel over here.
Okay. I was thinking of making it useful that power as well. Okay, that's all.
Right. Thank you, Izani. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Cղɪʟᴅ. May I have your, if you would like to share your takeaway from this evening?
Yeah, to me, this is only not for parenting and not for kids kind of thing. I will say this one also for young working adult. I mean, it's also young. I mean, it's also good for the manager act as a parent to coach their new hires kind of thing. Because a lot of things is like nowadays, a lot of managers, they are managed, but now manage is not enough. We need to coach them kind of thing. We need to spend time. Okay, just like you plant a seed, you hire a person just like you plant a seed. You need to put water, fertilizer to nurture them. Then only you can harvest the fruit, which is their potential kind of things. So to me, it's very simple. It's just like you have to put in effort. That's mean all this thing is not only for kids, I would say, and not only for parents. It's actually for managers, for all those young working adult, fresh grad, all these kind of things. Yeah.
Right.
Because manager is just like the parent, and the new hire is just like a kid.
Oh dear. Thank you, Cղɪʟᴅ. Appreciate that perspective. Next, Christine, go ahead. Is there anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, I guess I attended another similar talk as well. I think at the end of the day, I think the self-concept, the self-image is very important. Sorry, I'm a boy, just making that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if let's say in the way we grow up and acted the way we are today is really it really like ties back to how we were being brought up when we were young. So if let's say we are able to really embrace all these 6 powers in our kids, right? We will build like a stronger generation next. Yeah. And I think hold on.
I ask you something very important.
I'm almost done with it.
This is asking permission for something.
Okay. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah. But thank you very much for introducing the concept. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Christine. Yeah. So those are the challenges when you work from home. Thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. Next, Aida, is there something that you would like to share with us about your takeaway for this evening?
Yes, but I will be very short. First, I want to say that I agree what was said before about that it is not only for parents, but it's also for young adults. And for example, me, I am 23 years old. I'm not a parent yet, but I found this information very crucial and very important for myself and actually for all the people, because before educating the children, you have to educate yourself first. So I completely agree with everything what you have said, and especially the part about emotion, maybe because it is related to me more than other things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Aida, for that feedback and sharing. Next, Danielle, go ahead. You're next.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Hazuki, for tonight's sharing. I always love the part that when you talk about responsible to and responsible for, because myself have a lot of previous experience where I confuse among these two. And like, for example, we often hear, or myself said that before, like, you make me angry, she make me sad. Yeah, so actually that person doesn't make me angry, but myself, I'm responsible for my anger. Yeah, so yeah, I always love that one, and these are the things that I teach my kids today as well. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Danielle. And last but not least, Guat Ching, go ahead.
Thank you, Mazuki. And I totally agree with what Xiu said. It is same thoughts. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Right. Thank you, Guat Ching. And with that, we've come to the end of our session. I really appreciate all of you for being here. Izani, Aida, Christine, Xiu, Guat Ching, and Danielle. And I hope to be seeing you again some other time. For those of you celebrating Chinese New Year, I wish you a happy Chinese New Year. And I hope to see you again in the next events that we have. So with that, thank you and good night, and may God bless all of you. Thank you very much. So keep safe. I'll see you when I see you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Have a good
Thank you.
rest.
Good night.